Oh Lord, it's sweet in the morning. This is an interview with Mr. Harvey Henley for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at Miles College, June 21st, 1995. Thank you, Mr. Henley, for coming out and sitting with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. I just want to start by asking some rather general questions about your families. Mm-hmm. Tell me, where were your parents from?
They're originally from a place called Enandale, Mississippi.
Enandale, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Where is that located?
It's located to the south of Lauderdale, Mississippi, which is to the south of Meridian, Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Were you born in Mississippi?
I was born there.
Okay. How old were you when you came to Birmingham?
When my father moved to Alabama, I was 3 years old.
Okay. So really, Birmingham is what you know most about?
Yeah, Birmingham and Johns, Alabama. Yeah.
Right. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had, it was 8 of us.
And where did you fit?
In the middle.
In the middle.
Fourth child, yeah.
Fourth child. Mm-hmm. Just tell me a little bit about your parents. What about their education? How much education did they have?
My mother perhaps had about 8th grade education. My father about the same, about 8th grade education, yeah.
What about their occupations?
My mother used to wash and iron clothes for white people. My father was, even though it was a coal mining camp that we lived in, but he was a what you call a lumberjack. He used to cut the props that hold the mine, the top of the mine up.
Okay, so he worked for a mining company,
right?
But he was not a miner.
He's not a miner, no.
Oh, okay. What community did you live in as you were growing up?
What area?
Yes.
I lived in the coal mining camp called Johns, Alabama.
And where's Johns?
Johns, Alabama is about 12 miles below Bessemer. You go through the pipe shop and go down through West Howler and on down to Johns, Alabama, old Tuscaloosa Highway, Bessemer Road.
Right.
Yeah.
And what school did you attend?
I attended the Adjutant Junior High School, which is in our community. Okay. And then I was bused to Westfield High School in the Westfield community. You
were bused to Westfield?
Yeah.
How far was that from Johns?
It was about a 40-mile trip each day, round trip. 40
miles?
Yeah.
Were there any schools closer that you could have attended?
Oh, yeah. There were about 6 miles. Oak Grove High School and Hewitttown High School, which is about, about 7 or 8 miles.
Why didn't you attend those schools? You preferred to go to Westfield?
We were forced to go to Westfield because those were white schools, the Oak Grove and Hewitttown white school. And that was the closest county black school that was available, Westfield High School.
So you passed 2 schools, at least 2 high schools that happened to be white to get to Westfield High School. Mm-hmm. Westfield was a rather noted high school in the Jefferson County area.
Right, and you know, everybody, I have a lot of praise for Westfield High School because the teachers there were concerned and everything, and when you left there, you really had a real good basic education there. You didn't have any problem of getting into these colleges and things like that. And even now, we have one of the biggest high school reunions of any high school, Westfield High School.
They have alumni all over the country.
Right? Yeah, yes. Right.
I've interviewed people from Parker and Industrial High.
Right.
And each one said, well, their school's the best school. So I'm sure you'd say the same about Westfield.
Right.
Can you describe your community that you live in, Johns? What was Johns like?
Well, it's just like any coal mine. However, mine was a little different because in my community, we also had what you call sawmill people that were living there. And sawmill people, you had blacks living on this side and white living on this side. Well, we all played together up until we got up to a certain age. And then people start teaching you that you got to say "Mister" to this sawmill boy, this sawmill girl, or what have you.
What do you mean sawmill? Why would they
Sawmill? Well, these white people worked at the sawmill. Had a sawmill there.
Oh, I see.
And they
lived in the
in the mining community that I lived in, but and we wasn't staying in company houses. Our house belongs to the man that owned the sawmill, and that's how my father got the contract with the coal mine, was to cut product for the coal mine. The man allowed him to do that on a sharing basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the coal mine didn't own the sawmill.
No.
But you lived in the same community.
Community, yeah.
Oh, okay. And there were both blacks and whites that worked for the sawmill as well.
Sawmill and the coal mine.
And for the coal mine. Mm-hmm. Well, how was the community situated? Did you have blacks and whites living together?
No, not living together. They were separated, I guess, by sometime a block or so. They were separated like that. We had our own churches. We had our own school. We had the community. You had a white community school and a black community school.
Both had elementary schools.
Both had elementary schools, yeah.
But you had to go out of the community. Both blacks and whites go out of the community for high school.
Yeah.
What kind of recreation did you have in the communities?
The only recreation we had was, we went down and swim in the creek, and you played click and wheel, roll a wheel, roll tires, call the car, all that kind of stuff. But there was no, organized recreation facilities at all.
What company owned the coal mines?
A Black Diamond Coal Mining Company.
Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the sawmill?
It was Tom Moore Sawmill.
Oh, okay. And when did you move to Birmingham, or you finished high school though?
I finished high school
in
at
Johns.
Westfield High School. I went into the armed service.
Okay, but you were still living in Johns.
Still living in Johns, yeah.
Okay, so can you describe to me how would you describe Westfield High School?
Westfield High School, I got Westfield. It was a different setting for me. But it was the first time I had gone to separate class. You had you go to this class and that class and what have you, and you had your homeroom and everything. And looked like all the teachers were real serious about what they were doing. When you go into that classroom, they had complete discipline and everything. And the principal, Mr. Reed, was one of the top, one of the best. He was concerned. And whenever we go on an activity period and everything, some of the guys might go up in the woods and smoke or something. Mr. Reed would come up there and run them out. I mean, he would get behind them and catch them. The level of concern and the education and everything, it was superb, because you had people like Mr. McCarthy, Miss Fenor, and you had people that were really concerned and really knew what they were doing. If you wanted to get an education, you could get it.
And they were concerned about your succeeding.
They were.
And in fact, you've had a lot of folk from Westfield that are going on.
Right.
To
Judge U.W. Clemens, Dr. Arrington.
Arrington went to Westfield?
He didn't go to Westfield. No,
he went to Fairfield.
He went to my spot.
Yeah, he went to Fairfield.
But Judge U.W. Clemens, he was
right.
a graduate of Westfield High School.
That's right. What was your community's relationship to law enforcement agencies? Say the Johns community.
We had, what kind of law enforcement agency?
Right.
We had, it was a little, one-horse town. Mm-hmm. We had one light. We had one police. And we called him Gun Rust.
Gun Rust?
Yeah, because he wore a pistol. I think it was, that thing reached all the way down to his ankle, and it was rusty. But and it had a little 47 Plymouth. But anyway,
Did he ever arrest anybody?
Yeah, he tried, you know, but the guys, they got these cars and they were so fast, they always lead him on out of town. I never forget when I had moved to Birmingham, I went back down there and I had a 56 Ford. And he got behind me and boy, I led him out of town. So he went over to the house and told my father, my father named Harvey Lee too, say, Harvey Lee, that boy of yours come down here running over our town. Next time he come back down here, you bring him over here.
So did your father take you over the next time?
He tried.
He did. But you wasn't quite ready to go. Okay. So were there ever you ever remember any difficulty in your community that related to the law enforcement agencies?
Well, the only thing is that one year, Reverend Norwood was preaching a revival at one of the churches down there. And Reverend Norwood always drove a big, long Cadillac car. So gun rush come through there and saw that Cadillac car sitting out there. So he came in the church and wanted to know what was going on. And we run a revival. But I guess if it had been, Martin King or somebody, he was going to arrest everybody in there. But anyway, we was running a revival, and that was good. So he didn't say anything about that. But no, we didn't ever have any trouble out of the law. Only thing that the bootleggers down there, they had favoritism. You know, he would let one bootlegger get by, and he would arrest the other one. So I think they had some problem. We never had any problem. Yeah.
Were there black and white bootleggers?
Oh yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
That community being a rather distant community from the city, did you ever have any difficulty with the Klan?
Yeah, had a lot of it. I mean, because I think that the Klan object was to, terrorize the community, keep fear in people. And they used to always have these caravans to come through the community with 100 cars sometimes, with the big cross on the truck and everything, and the white sheets and hoods on. Never forget one night my uncle was coming from, he had just went and bought 2 chickens. You know, you used to buy chickens on Saturday for the cook for Sunday. And he was coming back, and he saw those cars coming out of the road, and there was a bridge there. So he got up on that bridge and jumped in that water, and the chicken went one way and he went the other way. That show you how the amount of terrorism that they were doing. I mean,
what were the occasions that they just decided to ride through the community?
When the headlines come out in the paper about Arthurine Lucy's attending University of Alabama, and they headlines such as the Supreme Court make a decision on the integrating schools and everything, then they start that demonstration.
So this was basically for the purpose of retaining control and maintaining control of the black population.
Right. So to say is that it's not going to happen here. Yeah.
Right. After you finished high school from Westfield, what did you do?
I went into the Army.
Where did you go?
I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I went to Fort Bragg and to Fort Benning.
Did you volunteer or were you drafted?
I volunteered. Yeah.
So you never did get outside of the country then?
Never got outside the country. Okay. I wanted to, but I never did get outside the country.
And you were there for what, 2 years or so?
2 years, yeah.
And you returned to Birmingham to Alabama in 1959, I believe.
1959.
By that time, the Alabama Christian movement had been very active for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You became involved. How and why did you get involved in the civil rights movement?
Well, the first thing that made me get concerned about it, because when I first got out of the Army, I was mustered out in Georgia, and this captain that gave us our little talk before we got out, he was telling us about you people from the South, so you don't have to go back to the other side of the fence again. And I realized what he was talking about, but when I got back to Alabama, I was, I think in '58, they had moved the signs on the bus to say black and white, but they still had up in the front, black seat from back to front and white seat from front to back. And I was commuting from Johns to Birmingham, and I got on the bus one day, the 45. I paid my money in the front, and you had blacks that were already standing from the back to the front. And so I went on and went up on and got in went in the front door. So this, and I was standing about halfway of the bus. And this white soldier, well, he appeared to be, I guess he was a National Guard person or something other. But anyway, he kept motioning for me to, he was doing that. I guess he was saying, go to the back.
This was before you got on the bus, or you on the bus?
I was on the bus. I was on the bus, and I was standing. I was standing up in front of two white women, and he was sitting down, and he was motioning for me to go to the back. I thought he was going to give me a seat, but what happened? He got up and went to the bus driver, and I heard him. He said, "You got a nigger up here in the front. Don't know where you're supposed to be." And then the bus driver looked through the mirror, and he started punting back to the back. So I didn't move. I said, "There's no room back there. I can't get back there." So he said, he stopped the bus and said, "You got to go back there now." I said, "No." I said, "There's no room. I done paid my money." I said, "I want to. There's no room for me get back there." And some 2 or 3 black women told me, "Son, go on back there. Go on back there." So when they said that, I said, "No, I just get off the bus." So I got off the bus and walked to Roosevelt City at the time. I had an aunt there. I lived in Roosevelt, so I went there and they took me home. But that one incident, it started me thinking about what they were doing in Birmingham with the Alabama Crescent movement for human rights, because these were the things that they was meeting about at the mass meeting and everything. So I decided that I would go to one of the mass meeting, and I felt good about what I was hearing, and the people looked like they were really ready to do something, and what that did was gave me the opportunity to get information from these meetings, and I would go back to Johns and tell the people what was going on, what we need to do down here. Because you had limited success at getting people to participate in anything in the little town I come from. Because I always thought that, that the Lord was going to change things, and I mean, they had legitimate feelings and everything. But it was very few people progressive enough to understand really what was being said. You had a few old people down there that got involved in the voters registration education thing. But as far as attending mass meeting, from Johns, I've been very few people that did that, but I did start attending the mass meeting.
Were you living in Johns at the time?
I lived in Johns at the time, yeah.
Okay. And what year did you move to Birmingham?
I moved to Birmingham in 1960.
Okay, so you were there for a few months after you got out of service, right. And then you eventually moved. What community did you move to?
I moved to Poly.
Poly.
Yeah.
Okay. So you then started attending mass meetings on a regular basis.
Right.
Can you describe to me what a typical mass meeting was like?
Well, it started like, first start like going to church. I mean, you go and you have a prayer, you have some singing, and then you have information sharing, people who had gathered information about what was going on, what we need to do, and all these things was happening. You had people that was well versed in all these areas that they would speak. You have 3 or 4 people speak a night, and then you have a main speaker that would speak, and people could be enthusiastic and everything, and they was getting fired up. Yeah.
At this time, were you a registered voter?
No, the first 2 or 3 meetings, I wasn't a registered voter, no.
Was that one of the activities that was discussed? And
that was one of the things that was stressed. They was telling you about, if you wasn't qualified to vote, where you can go to get the training that you need to qualify. and my area was Bessemer. Asbury Howard Senior and his son, they ran the voters education campaign there in Bessemer. I went and got some of the information that they had, and a lot of it was just stuff that you would learn, and I know you would get it in high school about the Constitution and stuff like that. Then you have to pay your poll tax. But the first time I went to register, I qualified to vote. I was qualified, but the one trick question that the last guy that examined you, you had to go to 2 different rooms. You take your written test, then you have an oral examination by some specialist. And so he asked me who was the mayor of the town that I was born in. And I was 21 years old then. And I left Mississippi when I was 3 years old. So I said, I don't know. You mean to tell me you don't know the name of the mayor of the town that you in? I said, no, I really don't. I say, as a matter of fact, I don't know whether they even had a mayor. No, every town got a mayor. So I said, I don't think they had one. Well, if you don't know the mayor of your town, that's your civic duty. You can't vote. You can't register to vote. So
what were your feelings after he disallowed your becoming registered?
My feeling was that it's just a scheme to keep me from voting. I didn't think that he really wanted me to be registered to vote. But I thought that this was a federal observer. I don't know, I felt real good when I sat down in front of him. He had black hair and he was red, and I thought that maybe this guy, he's all right. I'm finna qualify here. But he turned me down. So
why would you think he is a federal man? Because he had black hair. And
black hair, looked kind of like a Jew or something.
Oh, so you figured he was not Southern?
Yeah, he didn't look Southern, right?
Yeah. Okay, all right. So then you were turned down that time.
Yeah.
So then did you go back for a second?
The second time I went back, that was the lady that asked me the phone question, and she asked me, why did he turn you down the last time? I said, well, I failed to get some information about my hometown. I said, and I was 3 years old when I left there. He said, what was the question? I said, well, he wanted to know the name of the mayor of Enondale, Mississippi. He said, he shouldn't have turned you down for that. And she checked that off and gave me my certificate. And I was registered to vote. Yeah.
That's Enondale?
Enondale, Mississippi.
Okay,
yeah.
Enondale, Mississippi. Yeah. So you then became a registered voter?
Became a registered voter, yeah.
Okay. Your activity in the movement, you had a role. You played a specific role. What was your role?
Well, really, at the time I had gone to work at a Cipco too, and I really was concerned about the labor aspect of the movement. Because these other things like the buses and the department stores and everything, they had people, elderly people that would picket the stores and things like that. Mm-hmm. But the place that I worked, we had a real problem out there about discrimination too. And anything that you did out there at the time was a bold move because people was afraid too. They was afraid of the job and everything. So even if you went to a meeting, and these mass meetings I went to, they probably had the company that I worked for would have people to go to those meetings and come back and tell them who was at those meetings. So anything anybody did out there, it was real bold.
Were you ever approached by supervisors as a result of your attending meetings? One day,
somebody had told the supervisor that I was at the meeting. I think it was a meeting when Dr. King had been in jail, and somebody saw me at one of the rallies, the support rallies for Dr. King, and the superintendent say, "Harvey, you involved in that mess going on down in Birmingham?" I say, "Well, I'm not directly involved. I say I'm an observer. I go and see everything. And, well, we don't need that stuff. We don't need that kind of stuff. Say, you too good a man to be tied up and something like that. Although I appreciate the your comments. I appreciate you feeling that way about me and everything. I say, but it's just something that I want to go and observe. Well, you just keep on going and observing, and that he left it like that. So the work manager, he called me in one day and said that see, I really was associating with the movement had all kind of people in it. You know, you had different political perspective and things like that, and everybody that is not a person that go to church and all that kind of stuff, he's a communist. So that's what my work manager told me. Say, Harvey, you're too good a man to be tied up in that old communist stuff like that. I say, well, I don't know different than a communist and you. I say, I'm out here with you every day. I say, and in this world that we live in, you got all kind of people in it. I say, and I associate with all kind of people. I said, now, whether you think that I'm being influenced by somebody, I said, I can think that you being influenced by something. And he got mad. He said, well, I tell you what, you take care of your people, I'm going to take care of mine. I said, well, that's good. I said, I don't have no problem with that at all. I say, but don't have no problem with me associating with people. I know how to go in and out and take care of myself.
Were you ever reprimanded or anything for being in attendance at the meetings?
Well, I wasn't reprimanded, but I was warned about passing out leaflets in the shop.
You also, though, didn't you collect money from people that worked at SIPCO?
Right.
For the movement, contributions for the movement?
For the movement, me and Davis Jordan and Edward Hicks, we would ask the guys for a contribution, and we would get it to the Alabama Christian movement. What did your employer think of your doing that on the job? Were you well, they didn't know it. If they hadn't known it, if they had ever saw me solicited, that would have been the reason to fire me. Yeah.
Right. So. What kind of activities were you involved in? What demonstrations were you involved in?
I was involved in the demonstration when I think when we got the change of we was demonstrating for the change in government. We went to the city hall. I was involved in the when Dr. King came to the Birmingham at the LR Hall. He was doing a speech there, and I was there when this white guy went to shake his hand, and instead of shaking his hand, he slapped him.
What happened when that took place?
It was some of the guys grabbed the guy. The police grabbed him, and when the police grabbed him, I think Dr. King say, "No, leave him alone. Leave him alone." He went to him and told him he loved him and all that. And, Dr. King didn't want him arrested or anything like that.
How did the audience react?
Well, they were ready to jump the guy. Yeah. But Dr. King, he cooled down.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you on the march? I believe it was Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday, right.
On that march.
I was. Now I didn't get arrested. I didn't get arrested in that march. But I was there, and it just about when you did a march like that, you just about knew who was gonna get arrested. People had already told, asked us if could you afford to get arrested or what have you, and if you worked at these shops and factories and everything, and you had a family, you probably wasn't gonna get arrested, but you would do anything else that you could do. That was my position.
Yeah. Well, did your company, American Cast Iron Pipe, Did they have any particular method that they would utilize if if you were arrested and you missed time off work?
Yeah, if you were arrested, they had the method was that the jailer would keep you in jail. They would keep you in jail for 3 days. If they kept you in jail for try to find a way to keep you in jail for 3 days, you'd automatically fired. But if they didn't keep you in jail, when you come back, you was gave a reprimand. The first offense was 2 weeks off. They would give you 2 weeks off. And
if you missed a day from work.
They called that a defiance of the law. That demonstration was a defiance of the law. If anybody got arrested on a demonstration, then they called that defiance of the law. And that rule, the first offense was 2 weeks off, and you did it again, it was discharged.
So even if you demonstrated and were not arrested?
And was not arrested, it was still the demonstration itself. They would say it was defiance of the law because somebody did get arrested.
But you were involved in several demonstrations. You were never brought before the authorities?
Never brought before the discipline committee, no.
Okay. Did others in your family participate?
Did any other typical people?
Yeah, no, others in your family
participate? No, I was the most progressive one of my. I had a brother that he was, because he died when he was 30 years old, and he had gone to school, and he was a civil engineer, and he come back a Muslim. I mean, he just didn't like white folks at all. So, but as far as political stuff, I was the most progressive one.
Were you married at the time?
No, I wasn't. I got married in 1963, I believe it was. Yeah.
So then, were you? Was your wife involved in the movement?
No. She was all. I was always gone, and she was always. She didn't say anything about me leaving or whatever I had to do.
She was supportive.
She supported me in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What church were you a member of?
At the time, in Johns, I was a member of the Mount Hermon Baptist Church. When I come to Powder, I joined the First Baptist Church of Powder, and I subsequently I moved to a New Pilgrim Baptist Church.
Was First Baptist involved in the movement?
You had some people in First Baptist.
What about the minister?
The minister, no. The two ministers that I served under, they wasn't involved in it.
Did you have any mass meetings out at First Baptist?
No.
Were they anti-movement? Did they talk against the movement?
No,
they didn't. Were not supportive.
They didn't talk against it. You had people, some people in the membership that would say that them people ought to let God handle this and all that. But you didn't have a wholesale resentment to what was going on. People just afraid. That's all. Afraid for people to come in the church, right? Because they thought they might bomb it or something.
So your activity then, although you were involved in a number of the demonstrations, your thrust was to see some changes where labor was concerned.
Right.
Then what kind of impact then did the movement have upon that area of life, that work life?
Well, it had a lot of it because in 1963, I didn't know anything about the President Commission on Equal Employment. Before they had the EEOC, they had a commission on equal employment, and that was an executive order. And I learned all this as attending the mass meeting. They had people there that was telling people their rights and as workers and things like that. And so we had some people, Davis Jordan, who was the chairman of the Committee for Equal Job Opportunity. We had Peter Wren and all of us. We got together and start inquiring about the commission, what his job was and everything. So because we wanted to file some charges, and that's what we did. We started filing written charges against our company because of discrimination. Because at Pacifico, they had black jobs and white jobs. That is that when I first went there, about the only thing that a black person could do was to do labor work, and the other thing was to be a rammer. That's to ram the mold. That's the thing to shake you to death, and all that. That's the highest paying job that you could get. I don't care what it was, driving a payload or whatever. They had black jobs and white jobs, and they made the assignment that way. So we started filing charges, and started getting these investigators to come in. We got an investigation to come in, and they checked out our complaint, and we thought that we were going to get some relief there. But these government agents, most of them, I done dealt with all of them. They give you the runaround. I mean, they started early on, coming down, doing an investigation, come back, and writing you, telling you what they've done and everything, and they don't do anything else. But we kept writing those letters, until finally we did get a good investigation. But what it did was that that was 63, and in 1964, they passed a law that this Civil Rights Act 64, and in it had what you call a Title 7. That had to do with equal employment. Now that gave you access to the court. The commission didn't give you that access. The commission, all you try to do is get a good faith agreement. But the Civil Rights Act and the Title 7 gave you access to the court. You can go on up as high as the Supreme Court. So the president came in, and he had a meeting with the white employer and had a meeting with the black employer.
Together?
No, they had a separate meeting. And that was wrong. He wasn't supposed to do that. They had a separate meeting. He told the white employer, said, y'all ain't got to worry. Ain't nobody going to come in here breathing down our back. Say, we going to go on and do things just like we've been done. And in the meantime, now these white guys, they used to come in there and get all those jobs, skilled jobs and everything, without taking a test or anything. So what happened was that, when they saw that we were filing these charges in 1963, they implemented a test. They called it a California Achievement Test for Mental Maturity. And those tests had so many things. It's a college entrance exam, really what it was. And so that was the relief that we got, because most of our people couldn't pass that test. They could do the work, and they were doing the work, but they couldn't pass the test. So they couldn't get a higher paying job. At the same time, it got the government off the hook, because they said that the white people are passing this test, and you can't pass it, therefore you don't have no complaint. But the white people wasn't passing the test. And even when they gave them the test, they took it to their house and schooled them on it and everything. They showed them how tests was, how you pass tests and all that stuff.
How do you know that they took it to their house?
Well, because some of the good white folk told us that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So did you have an official position?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. In relationship to the EOC? Yeah, I was the executive secretary for the, and but now this was our committee, equal job. Committee for Equal Job Opportunity, not the EOC. Okay. That's what Lola was involved in.
Right. Was this an internal
It was internal.
agency?
It was a black caucus at a Civico.
Of employees?
Of employees. Because we didn't have, it was unorganized. See, Civico always had been unorganized. And it was a peculiar setup. It's supposed to be a family-owned thing. That is that the employee is supposed to own it. And everybody's supposed to have an equal share. We're supposed to get a bonus every 3 months and all that because of our profit share. The man that left the place and willed it, he was a good guy apparently. I mean, you need to read his book, but he really had the idea that the industry should operate according to the golden rule. And to some of the older people that I talked with, they say that when he was there, John Egan said when he was there, that things were really he was living 100 years before his time then, but it fell into the hands of these people. I mean, these hunkers that come out of the woods and that. I mean, it just took everything back. So when I arrived there, it was tough. You couldn't move. You couldn't have no mobility or anything like that. So we started to filing these charges then in '64. Then we started filing charges with EEOC.
So the movement had an impact upon the way that you viewed your position in the workplace.
Yeah, because Andy Young, he used to come and I think it was Stokely Carmichael. He was trying to, all these organizations trying to recruit people. Stokely Carmichael, he came and tried to recruit us because if you working in the industry, you really could be supportive of any kind of movement because of factory workers, you call them proletarians, the workers and everything. So they would meet with us and tell us about and talk about labor untold story and all these things. But then Andy Young, he came and talked with us and told us the black power is what you all are doing here. That you done formed a caucus in this shop, all white. You ain't got no
Young actually came to a SIPCO to talk with you all? Did he come to SIPCO or did he simply?
No, he came to Birmingham at the H.G. Gaston hotel. We met down there.
I see. So you never had a union per se.
No.
At a SIPCO.
No.
But there was activity going on that related to organization.
Exactly.
Of black workers.
And we were that organization.
Well, how were you viewed then by your employer?
We viewed by employers as troublemaker. That we just causing trouble. And when the sit-ins were going on downtown, we had a restaurant at SIPCO, and I had white and black side. We were sitting in out there too, and those were bold moves. I mean, because you didn't have no union, and the only representation you have was that Committee for Equal Job Opportunity. And
what happened as a result of your sitting in out there?
As a result of our sitting in and filing charges, they had to tear the wall down. And we would go, when you come out of that shop, man, you'd be sweating, you'd be dancing and everything. You go on the other side and you walk by these people with these suits on and everything and sit out beside them while they drop the food. But the best demonstration I saw of how they really disliked what we were doing, this big carpenter, I guess he weighed about 300 pounds. He came in there with his hammer one day and stood up at the cash register. And that was supposed to scare a lot of people off,
This is a white carpenter?
A white carpenter, yeah. And the wake manager, he was standing there looking at him. Them fellas, they came up there and they went through that line and brushed by him so fast and almost knocked him down standing there. I mean, fellas really getting courage. The movement caused that. The movement caused people to develop a conscious, that it's time for us to do something. I mean, people really was sharing all that fear that they had and everything. So it really had an effect, that kind of effect on me. It gave me a conscience of what I need to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, since there was never an organized labor organization in the area, I mean, in the company, were there ever efforts to organize with our unions that came in and wanted to organize workers at this particular time? Yeah,
we had, I participated in at least 3 union campaigns. But what happened during these campaigns is that the company, management had a freedom to manipulate money any way that they want to manipulate it. If you're supposed to get a bonus, you hadn't been getting one, they start giving you. But I remember 1975 when we had the union campaign going on. We hadn't gotten a bonus in 3 years. When they started seeing union cards pass around out there, they started giving a bonus and gave a bonus for 3 years until they stopped all the vestiges of that union campaign. We were successful. We were successful one time in getting enough cards signed and I believe winning the election. But what the company did, they have about 300 people they call supervisors, and they can throw them in there and call them supervisors. And supervisors, they're not supposed to vote, but they allowed them to vote. So I thought, it was an older fellow talking about a union campaign they had, and they had gotten it when the CIO was organizing it. he said that they had already gotten the union, they're wearing the buttons and everything, and say the president at the time, he found out that the blacks were the one that was that was doing the most campaign and everything in the union. So he had a meeting with the black folk, and say that he had a big tub somewhere there with a bunch of $4 in it, and say that he had a black Jesus up on the wall. Say the president coming there crying. Say, gentlemen, say the man up there died for all of us, and say we don't have a good place out here to work at. Say now these foreigners gonna come in here and they gonna take what we got, and say I can't let them do it. We can't let them do it. And say then people started getting a handful of $4 and come out of there crying. So they lost that election. Sold it.
Was this prior to your coming out there?
That's prior to me coming out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he had a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a black Jesus on the wall.
Had a black Jesus on it. George Dudley could tell you about that. He dead though. He could tell you about that better than I can. But they say it actually happened.
Mm-hmm. So you would then say that, see, there's been some criticism of the movement saying that the movement ignored workers. Would you suggest that that was not the case and that the movement was actively involved with workers as well?
Well, it may. I think that people have to get involved, on a level that they can keep on going. On a level that they can that they can work with and that they can appreciate. You say that it was a lot of things going on in the movement, and a lot of information being shared. And what you had to do is have to position yourself to take advantage of this information. I mean, there's a lot of people, very important people that to be met at these mass meetings. It's a lot of people that I met that was had superior education, better education than I had, but I had more experience with what it was like working in those factories and things out there. And they can give me the expertise that they have. Writing letters and everything, and drafting letters to different agents and everything. And as a matter of fact, helping me put newsletters together and everything. But I think it's a thing that is a network of things that was going on in that movement.
So you're saying then that the movement then, in effect, did assist workers in what they were doing on their jobs, if in fact they were active and attempting to make some changes in their work areas. Exactly.
See, you had now the labor movement itself. Union. They always had that separate thing. The labor unions couldn't do what we were doing because they were controlled by the national office and everything. We could file charges and we could say things even about the labor movement itself. Even about because the labor movement during this time, they was racist too. I mean, it was a whole lot of stuff going on that we had to challenge, and people come to us and wanted to join our caucus because of their unions. You see, but so the labor movement, they could have been involved if they had wanted to be involved, but they want to do their own thing. In a lot of cases, that's what happened. They don't want to come in and join you in the overall effort, but they want you to support what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then the movement itself was not necessarily part of the labor movement, but individuals who were associated with the movement could utilize what they learned in the movement and actually utilize individuals in the movement to assist them in accomplishing what they needed to accomplish on their jobs.
That's right.
Okay, so there was that sort of a relationship that developed in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
What is your assessment of the Birmingham movement? How successful?
I think that in '63, I think that was the apex of what the Birmingham movement was all about. That is that my assessment of it was that it raised the consciousness of a lot of people. That is that a lot of people develop a political consciousness. they developed, and their religion took on a more meaningful thing because they were more faith-based, and what they were doing as a result of that movement. People developed courage and it developed a feeling that they were headed somewhere, and they wasn't going to turn back. I mean, that feeling, it went on for a long time. And so my assessment is that it was a very important, the movement was a very important role. They played a very important role. I think that sometimes we have some catching up to do with what our foreparents did. I heard somebody say the other day that when I talk about foreparents, I'm talking about people like Martin King, Malcolm X, people like that. Those are our foreparents, not these conservative people that's coming on the scene now, establishing themselves as leaders. But you got to go back and see what your foreparents did. And I think we need to reassess that sometime and see what we got off track at, because I think that the mass meeting, we need those in some form now. I don't know how you do that. I was talking to my pastor about it. But we need that. We need those mass meetings now, 1 or 2 times a week. We need those right now.
Why do you think we need them now?
Well, because this affirmative action thing. We got one of the first affirmative action plan written on paper at a CIPCO. And if you don't have a national government supporting you in your efforts and the issues and the question that you're raising down here locally, if you don't have the support from your national government, you don't have the support from the Supreme Court, affirmative action don't mean anything. And it never has been anything if you don't have no enforcement power. It doesn't mean anything.
You've been very helpful. I'd just like to ask you one further question. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we've not dealt with that's associated with the movement and labor at this point?
Well, I just want to, one thing that I haven't heard too much, I haven't heard too many people talk about this family that Asbury Howard, but you told me that you had interviewed them.
Yes.
And I think those are two very important people that should be interviewed. Also, I think that the thing that we did in CIPCO, I think that need to happen, and we did start trying to bring black workers together, from all these factors, and we come together and have some dialogue about what's going on in the shop. But now we need, even more than that, we need to bring people who had benefited from the movement, bring them together also in this dialogue, because they are catching some of the same hell that we caught in our shop. Some of those cooperative people that went up the cooperative ladder, they catching the same thing now, and they're gonna have the same problem. And that's why I say we need to go back to what our parents and forefathers, what they did, and see how they dealt with these situations. We got to get ourselves close together, because we having similar to the same problem now. I think we're gonna reverse. We're gonna repeat what we went through with.
Well, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Obviously, what we're doing is trying to develop this for the Civil Rights Institute. And if you have any items that are related to the movement or the development of Birmingham that you would like to donate, please feel free to get in touch with us.
I do that because we have some things that we would like for the Civil Rights Institute to have. Some of the documents and things that we filed with the different agencies and everything. We even got our case in the congressional record during the time when they were having the hearings on the Civil Rights Act 64. So it's some things, documents that we have that we would like for the Civil Rights Institute to have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sweet in the morning, oh Lord, it's sweet.